debut trailer of Microsoft Flight Simulator in 2019 dawned a new age of gaming tech that paves the way for future generations. In this review, I will not just take a look at the latest Sim Update 10, but also the technology that powers this stunning flight simulator and why it really is the pinnacle of current game engines and why it's the best simulator bar none. Yes, you heard me right, you Star Citizen junkies. So buckle into your seats, stow away those tray tables, and let's have a chat. This video is somewhat of a love letter to Microsoft Flight Simulator, a franchise that has now been with us since 1982, before Reggie lad was even born into gangster life. And I look at where Microsoft Flight Simulator is today and I continue to stare in awe even 2 years after release, because it still wows and amazes me each time I take to the skies. And the release of Sim Update 10, which includes a truckload of improvements such as how wind and gas impact your aircraft, continues to push the sim to new heights. You sort of have to feel for the boys over at Laminar Research, with the release of X-Plane 12 coming just before this update must have been a bit of a kick in the teeth.
I'll have to ask my accountant about that.
Firstly, we need to talk about the layers of tech that powers the sim to making it the showpiece that we all jack off to. Perhaps the single most important feature is the way it's able to stream 2 petabytes of data to your PC. That is 20% of the entirety of Pornhub for those who wish to measure that way. It's based on Blackshark AI software that reconstructs a one-to-one scale of the planet Earth from satellite imagery using the, how do you say it, Azure cloud. Very handy for when planning a bank job, by the way. And we need to take a step back and think of the possibilities here, because this is where few games have gone before. Yes, I get we all hate an always online connection, but in games such as this, it has the potential to evolutionise how developers think of connected games, or what MMOs can be. Think of something like Cyberpunk 2077. Imagine a city that has every single room and floor modelled within a skyscraper, with a whole city to go and explore. Instead, your PC is merely reconstructing all of that data that exists from servers based in bloody Timbuktu. It would be impossible to install a game of that kind onto your machine, let alone download a game of that size through your shitty Spectrum or BT internet connection. And the same can be said for other games too, including space simulators, where far more detail can be layered in for individual planets or bases. But it's not just the world that is being streamed to you as you fly above the gaff. God, no, my pedigree chums. It's also streaming real-time weather data using METER and a load of other big brain calculations that go way above Reggie's low intellect. I mean, just look at this bloke, tell us how it all works.
Could lead.
So the tech presented here may manifest itself into something different as time passes, but as Sobo have laid down the foundations for something that genuinely pushes the envelope. In comparison, we hear a lot about other simulator tech such as Star Citizen, and I'm a big fan of Star Citizen. You can check out my videos on that. But that game in theory changes up how we think about simulators and what is possible with game engines. But in Microsoft Flight Simulator, we have the technology already working here today on Johnny Two Shoes gaming rig, and I'll take reality over plausibility any day of the week. But enough of that tech bollocks. Let's talk about the actual simulator itself and what new players can expect. Firstly, it's broken out into different sections depending on your gaming needs. So you'll have a training section which teaches you the basics to fly, about the gaff causing havoc. You've then got the discovery flights, which is a mode really for all you lot to have a lovely little Tommy tank as you marvel at the utter beauty of Flight Simulator as it presents landmarks and cities. And then you have the place where all that glorious tech comes home in the form of bush flights. These revolve around VFR or visual flight rules. For you Padawans, it means you can fly to places just by looking out your cockpit window, as you'll be able to tell the M25 from the A13 or the 405 from the 110. Yes, people, I am very well versed in the freeways and motorways of the UK and America. You can even crash into Frank the Manx house, which is great bloody fun. It's that level of detail that is game changing in the simulator genre. Next we have some landing challenges to test your skills, or indeed there is more tongue-in-cheek kind of challenges, but albeit bloody good fun activities of flying planes straight out of Top Gun Maverick or the Halo universe. And with all of this, I haven't even mentioned the main mode, which is of course the world map, where you get to create proper routes to buzz around Earth and manage your approaches and descents into the 40,000 plus airports on offer. Shagaloof, here I come. And you can see the opportunity that lays before you, no matter your skill level, is vast. And we haven't even discussed how Asobo has embraced the modding community. Reggie, for example, has other programs running such as NeoFly, which creates a career mode from the world map to give me some real purpose to my flying. But there is a lot of other mods out there to enrich your experience too, such as VATSIM for air traffic control, talking to real players in real time. I myself haven't actually tried that one out, because ultimately I'm a bit of a twat and I'd probably ruin it for people, but if you want to go down that path, it's there. Asobo has done a great job of balancing the book's Reggie tax style by embracing a hardcore group of fans and catering to people who don't have a Scooby-Doo on what the f*** any of it even means. For anyone new, stick to the base game and learn your craft, or just piss about around landmarks, but also know there are some realistic study aircraft beginning to appear, such as those from PMDG. Now these $70 modules for one plane might seem a bit pricey, but know you are getting the real deal here, where every switch and button is animated, which invariably has an impact on your plane. It could take hundreds of hours to truly master these machines, so the value overall is pretty good. And finally, it is the continual updates we see on Microsoft Flight Simulator that makes this a world beater. And right now, we just saw Sim Update 10 release. Sim Update 10 boasts DLSS for you nerds, improvements to DX12, which by the way, as the time of writing this bloody review, Nvidia just dropped a driver which does make massive improvements into how that functions. It also includes multiple monitor support for you rich bastards, a new improved weather and cloud system for innovation so it looks proper foggy in those mountainous regions, a new computer navigation system in the form of a G1000, no it's not your wife's dildo, and finally a better VFR map, plus actually a shitload of other improvements on top. Yes people, it really is standout how well this game continues to get supported, and Sim Update 10 just epitomises where Microsoft Flight Simulator sees itself in the future. There are of course bugs and issues that get brought to the dinner table with these types of updates, but by and large they are workable for most of us, and we should applaud and celebrate Asobo and Microsoft for supporting this game as heavily as they have done 2 years after its release. And whilst we talk about the sim updates, which in essence improve the flight systems and weather, we cannot forget about the world updates, which make improvements to different continents or cities in the form of updated elevation data or handcrafted landmarks. Now back in the day, these scenery packs cost literally hundreds of dollars, but today it's all streamed directly to us. So far this review's been nothing but praise, so I have to balance it out with some other issues along the way. Now graphically, yes, it's demanding and the DLSS does do wonders, but to get the best from it you do need a strong rig. It's not crisis type specs, but certainly it's demanding, and with that optimization it can always be improved, as you will get a few stutters here and there, but that's likely down to the fact that your computer is streaming the data. Don't download porn when playing this game. My biggest miss though is the lack of some kind of campaign or mission based gameplay that is curated to help you play through. Now the last iteration of Flight Sim had just that, along with flight failures or unexpected events as you took some twatty Hollywood exec to an airport, or you were in the Alps trying to find a crash-landed plane. And it's a real shame we don't have a fully voice-acted campaign to get our teeth stuck into. For new players, this might be a turn-off because learning the aircraft from bare bones is always going to be more difficult than if you had something fun to work with, and many new players may only take a fleeting interest in the sim just to see the nice graphics, then switch off after 10 minutes. And finally is the realism of the aircraft. Now realistically, you're going to need a proper module if you decide that you're going to be serious about your flight sims, but on the flip side, I'd say practically every flight simulator is the same here, whether that be DCS or X-Plane. They all require additional costs for the most realistic experience. Unless you're a hardcore flight simulator like myself and the boys, and we like to tug ourselves to seeing what goes on in the flight world, really the base game comes with plenty of aircraft to enjoy, so it really comes down to your own experience level. But the fact the option is there is pretty nice. Graphically, this is a really tough one to comment on because the video speaks for itself, so I'm not really sure what Reggie can say to do it justice, but I'll give it a crack. For my money, Microsoft Flight Simulator is still the best looking game right now. The fact they got this working on consoles is a technical marvel, and note that 30 frames per second in a flight sim isn't actually all that bad given the slow movement of the landscape when high in the sky. One of the most striking areas is surely the lighting. In particular, I think this shows best on longer flights where the time of day subtly changes the landscape around you, such as how clouds darken or lighten based on how the sun or indeed the moonlight penetrates through. How romantic. Shadows cascade down from the mountains or cities illuminate from afar in the distance. But it's those sunrises and sunsets that make Reggie and the boys hard as nails because whilst arguably a little exaggerated, they look absolutely spectacular. The next area of sheer wildness is of course the clouds, and what game can call itself a flight sim without good cloud tech? Now the game settings, which are highly customizable by the way, allows for all sorts of variations of cloud tech, but when placed on ultra settings you really do see the depth within them, whether they look big and fluffy giving you insight for impending turbulence, or whether they have a dark menacing look implying a storm. And just to go back to that incredible real world weather tech too, here I am flying through Storm Ian, which just battered the coast of Florida. Ian, you are one big It's a rather surreal experience to be able to play that out in real time, but also it shows how graphically it captures the serenity as much as the destruction. And with the lighting and clouds spoken for, the last missing piece is the planes themselves, which are all produced with stunning high resolution textures. My recommendation to all you newbies is learn to fly from the bloody cockpit from day one. Not only does it help you teach flight quicker, but also it helps with the immersion, and you're going to be missing out on some lovely little graphical touches, such as how rain batters down over the glass cockpit, or you'll see ice slowly accumulate when you pass through rain clouds and you don't have your bloody de-icer on. Reggie and the boys could bang on and on about how incredible this game looks, and frankly the last few minutes have been a waste of your time because literally you've only got to look at the beauty of the video and you'll see for yourself. As for sound, it's a somewhat more tricky affair and it's hard for me to judge because, well, I'll be honest with you people, planes, they just sound boring to me, and once I'm airborne at 30,000 feet, the monotony, it just reminds me of so many long haul flights that I've been on, so perhaps the word I'm after is uninspired. But are the sounds accurate? Yes, they bloody well are. They're authentic because the same amount of love and attention has been placed into all the sound effects, from the tyre screech on landing, wind battering the side of the aircraft, or rain smashing the glass from a downpour. It's all there, people. The musical score, however, now that is an absolute delight, and in a way I wish there was some kind of option to have it gently interlude with your flights, maybe at a frequency of your choosing. Flying the Darkstar plane, or whatever the bloody hell it's called, from that Top Gun 3, by the way, DLC, is a great example of this, as the music beats in and out at all the right times. It has that grandeur, that epic feel heard in many big theatrical releases, and I'm all for it. Now, just to be clear, the Top Gun DLC is obviously based off the movie license, but the Microsoft Flight Simulator music, it just melds so well to it, and you just kind of realise how closely knit the pair of them are, and ultimately how good that music sounds. So it's a long review from Reggie today, and dare I say, far less gags and banter thrown in than usual, and that's because Microsoft Flight Simulator deserves its high praise. The tech is sensational, paving the way for future developers in how they might think about big open worlds. Graphically, it's a tour de force and one of the most relaxing and zen gaming experience you can have. I truly believe a 10 score should be reserved for the very, very best of the best in the gaming world, and Microsoft Flight Simulator, well, it takes the mantle as being our first ever 10 rated game, and this is based on its current state, Sim Update 10, with all the latest improvements and continued support, because Microsoft Flight Simulator is a reminder of the power of games and why it is we love our hobby so much. And with that, boys and girls, I wish you all a lovely, lovely day. Reggie out.